Hi. Good afternoon. I was going to call you Vivek, so.
Okay, so wait, we are starting with me doing the chapter reading or like starting it, and then
Uh-huh.
um you doing the recap, and then me sharing the story.
We've got it down to a
No, wait,
science.
we're doing story first and then recap, or actually no, I think um chapter recap story.
First line.
I mean, yeah,
Go. Just go.
chapter 2 or level 2. My avatar materialized in front of my locker on the second floor of my high school, the exact spot where I'd been standing when I'd logged out the night before.
Okay. Nailed it. Nice. So, yeah, essentially this whole chapter was kind of explaining how school works and how the technology works around school and virtual school, how much it has helped him, um, how much it works for him as opposed to physical real school, and the difficulty he had um, with real school, that he actually went to physical school until what, like 8th grade or something. I don't remember. But he in that, because of his physical appearance and because of his personality, as a shy person, he had a harder time, because obviously bullies in school can be rough for kids that look different. So he had a lot of issues up until they allowed for students to go virtual, and he started doing classes virtually, not the same way we do now, but and I think it really showed the difference in what a difference it makes to go virtual, because you're not showing your true face. You're not, you can mute people, and the ability, I think, to do that made him so much more confident. He was like, he didn't feel like whenever bullies came to him, he was able to just say a one-liner and then mute them, and then they knew that he was muting them, so it felt like even better that
Right.
it's like, what, I can shut you up and you wouldn't realize. And
That was
I think
actually a cool part, yeah.
yeah, that I think that it made him feel like empowered. And then I think that, let me see, he talks about the looks, how he kind of, I think one of the
He
funny
talks about
things,
his flush.
but yeah, no, so he talks about his looks, then he talks about the blogs that he is a part of, as being a gunter, an egg hunter, and the people he follows, the Sixers, which are part of the corporation, IOI, that really has, like, hundreds and hundreds of people hired only to find the egg. And obviously everybody else, like normal people, individual gunters as well as clans, like gunters, have come together, hate the Sixers because they're like a corporation, and they know that if any of the employees of IOI wins, then the egg and the prize goes to IOI and not to an individual. And their plan, if and when they do get the egg and get acquisition of Oasis, is to essentially just commercialize it, put advertisements everywhere, have a monthly fee to access, etc. So nobody wants that. And so everyone hates the Sixers. There's this really cool blogger slash gunter, Artemis, who Wade really likes, and Parzival is like really obsessed with. And she, is kind of similar to him in the sense that she's just as obsessed with Halliday and his life and how to, and hunting and everything like that. And just at the end of the chapter, we're very, very briefly introduced to H, who is Wade's best friend, quote unquote, only friend, in the Oasis and in real life, I think. And I think that's where we ended.
That's where chapter 2 ends. Yes.
Okay. Story.
Oh, so sorry. So today's theme, the chapter, we read this chapter on the theme of kindness, right? I hopefully.
No, it was actually no.
But yeah, through kindness. So I'll share. So I was thinking about kindness, and I think generally there were in my head just examples of general kindness, but so I'll just share like a random story that came to my head. So when I was living in Vegas, I mean, I used to host a lot of couch surfers because I had space and I would always just like have my apartment sort of open for couch surfers, I would still vet through them, like of course accepting who I thought would be like had good reviews and whatnot. But so I mean, I think generally I was really okay with people coming in, going out. I would literally just give them the key and go to work. But I mean, there was that weirdly like level of trust on the app as well. But yeah, so this one time I remember I accepted like a request from these two guys who were like visiting Vegas and had been there for a couple days and living in, they were on the strip. And then, so they were gonna come from the strip to my apartment to stay for 2 more or 3 more days.
Mhm.
I said, okay, yeah, they can come. And then they sort of told me that they'll be a little late and around like midnight. So I was like, okay, I'll be awake. But so it was midnight. I didn't get any response from them. I remember I called, I didn't have a number, so I like messaged them on couchsurfing app and no response. I sent them my number on the app, so just in case they need to call. And it was around 3 a.m. that I got a call. And they were like clearly drunk. And they were, I mean, high, or I don't know what they were, but like, one of them was drunk. Whoever.
Under the influence.
Yeah. So he was like, "Hey, like we're sorry we're late, and we'll be right, like we'll be there in like a few." I was like, "Okay." I mean, by luck, by chance, I was awake because I was still sort of like, "Okay, maybe they'll come." And it was, I think, Friday, so I had the day off next, but still they were being late, and I was partially annoyed, but I know I was like, you know what, it's fine. I was watching TV shows anyways, but so they came around 3:30, and that's when they came in. They were clearly, they weren't drunk, they were hot. So it was, they were just like roaming around and dancing. I don't know doing what, and they were like, oh, you have a record player, so they're like, let's play music, and then they like played just like I think Lion King or something, and then it was just hanging out. I mean, at that point, my I was annoyed, but then my annoyance went to be like, this is weirdly interesting to just watch because I was just sitting at my stool and just looking at them, being like, this is like okay. I mean, I don't mind the fact, and they're not being really like, they're being really like, they're like, oh, you come on, you dance too, and it was just a weird moment. And like they even like broke. I think I had like a statue type thing, one of those like the people sitting, and they accidentally broke it as well.
Why do you say accidentally?
I
Like
don't,
this.
because I mean they were like high into the, oh yeah, because I it was an accident. I guess I shouldn't have done that. But I mean, but it also broke, and then I think I was like, okay, like, hey, why don't you guys go to sleep, and then we'll talk in the morning, and because I was like, okay, maybe this is too much. And then when I woke up in the morning, they were like weirdly, really apologetic, and I mean, because yeah, the statue was broken still, but but
Mhm.
what turned out was they were, I mean, they were being really nice, and we started talking and just general talk. I think we were in our apartment for the like the next 7 8 hours just talking. And I think something there I figured, I mean, I did find that like behavior sort of annoying, and the fact that they were like staying for free and then still being that person. But I think in my head, because I personally wasn't as bothered by it, because I think generally people would be. So I think I was fighting that like, oh, should I be bothered because they are being reckless in a sense, but I wasn't. So I was okay about it. And because of the fact that I was okay about it, I was just nice, being really nice to them and generally like being kind to them. I was like, no, like I still want to be friends with like just everyone who stays with me. And then we just were talking and chatting. And then I think throughout those 3 days, they like, I mean, they went out like did a lot sort of like to like recover from that one night. But
Yeah.
but even then afterwards, they like lived in Chicago. And even when I went to Chicago, I would stay with them. They stayed with me once more, and then I think I stayed with them like 7 8 times. but but I think that first weird moment of me questioning of whether they're wrong or right, I didn't judge them based on like general people. I just made a judgment that I think I'm okay with what they're doing, whatever. So I use that as a reason to just be kind to them. And I think that general, just normal, not act of kindness, but that feeling of being kind to someone led this like to our friendship, which I'm like really close with them now. I mean, they moved to Australia, so I like still chat with them. but I'm like good friends with them. And then after that, yeah, like I stayed with them for like every time I went to Chicago, but
Mm.
couchsurfed with them. But I think just I think the reason kindness came to my mind because I mean, yeah, it is somewhat egocentric of me being okay, like I was kind, but
Okay.
yeah, but I think because it was such a scenario where I know a lot of people won't be kind,
Mm.
and but still I was, and that showed me a good result as well. That like the amount of not amount the value of friendship that we developed was really strong. Versus I think if I was like, oh, they're annoying, and then just the next 2 days I was still bothered by it, we would not be hanging or like chatting or like be friends. But which I think it just for me it sort of worked out as well, and I think for them as well. But it was just that general small dose of kindness in my side, like, and then I mean I think later because they were being really nice and kind as well. I don't know if it's the same similar word that you can combine like being nice and being kind, but I think generally it just helped me be like really good friends with them. But yeah, I think that's what I thought of when I thought of kindness, like
Yeah.
small acts. But
Yeah. No, I think kindness is a very interesting term because I think it's I mean, why do we need the word kind if we have the word nice,
yeah,
right? So the difference between those two words I feel like are interesting because I mean, while you were talking, I was trying to think because I I think in every situation that you're talking about, I think you could use the word nice, right? But what is like is that the same thing as being kind? Does it mean because I feel like I associate kindness with something that's like innate. Like
see, that's the thing.
kindness
I
is
think
not a
kindness.
specific
Yeah, I think
thing.
the reason I took this as kindness and not being nice was I think kindness is took more like I took it more as like caring for someone more than
Yeah.
nice being just like being nice and like saying things that are nice. But because I actually like once we became sort of friends, I started caring about them and like if they were
Yeah.
okay and they were like not still high and like not breaking things. But it was still me wanting them to be okay as well. And I think because of that, like
Mhm.
connection, which was deeper than just being nice to someone.
Right. Then just being like polite and just saying
Yeah.
like, I mean, if I agree, I think it kind of is like almost like a level up from nice. Like
Yeah.
nice is I think like not bare minimum, but it's just something that you do
Yeah.
out of like politeness, out of
Yeah.
something that's like a basic. I was nice to you, I was decent to you. But like kindness is like I think something so much more pure, and it comes from like a place of like actual care
Yeah. And
for
yeah, I think
someone else.
kindness derives from somewhat your own personal experience. Because I think, or like your own experiences overall. Because I think being nice, you can, even if you had a horrible day, you can still be nice to people. But I think being kind requires you to have had a
You have like a
certain amount
different
of
mindset.
understanding. Yeah, exactly. Like that feeling of being safe and being okay with things, caring
Yeah.
about things for you to be like to exude kindness in that sense.
Yeah. And I mean, I think kindness is also like sometimes the way I associate it with is when you do something for someone, whether it be like a physical act or just talking to someone, um, not to make them feel better, but to kind of show that, you have some level of understanding with the other person
Right.
that like I'm doing this because I get what's happening right now and I'm with you in a way,
Right.
and like I appreciate that and what's going on. Like nice is just something very basic like I talked about, and I think kindness is like this over act that you do to make the other person feel better,
Right.
right? Like you're actually going out of your way to make them feel better, and I think that's such a strong thing to do
Yeah,
and
I
hard
think
to
it's the same as like kindness being close to like being friendly and being generous versus being nice would be like you don't have to be friendly if you're being nice.
yeah. Yeah. I think being kind also has a lot to do with empathy. Like I know we
Yeah.
talked about empathy last time, but I think it really goes into that because I don't think you can really be truly kind to someone unless you're actually being empathetic of them and you understand where they are and you say, okay, like for you, for example, you're like, you know what, like clearly they're drunk or they're high. Like I'm sure if they weren't, they wouldn't be like this. So maybe this is affecting how they are right now. Let's be more patient than I would with a normal person, right? Like if a completely stone cold sober person did that, you would not have the same level of kindness because you would be like, you wouldn't empathize. You wouldn't say, okay, this person is, you know, clearly doing this, you know, on purpose or whatever. So I think being empathetic really helps you be kind to someone. Like, and it's very, and it can be very, very small things, right? But like,
and I think because because of the fact I was also in Vegas, so it's not that it was far from my expectation. It was, I was like, okay, they're being late. They were on the strip, so yeah, I kind of get it.
Yeah,
but, and I mean, yeah, I was like, it's okay, sort of. I think it would have been different if I was in a different scenario, and even if this was like Kentucky and not that I was like, why
somebody showed up in Kentucky at 3 a.m. I would not let them.
I mean, Kentucky has a lot of like bourbon stuff, so people did some, like, not people, but one person did show up drunk, partially drunk.
Oh no, man. See, that's why like you are definitely the type of person that can do couch surfing and I cannot. Like I don't mind doing the couch surfing, but I just don't trust the app to have like to, you know, for people to be nice to come in and it depends. I think I would prefer to have an actual conversation with the person before they
which a lot of people do. Yeah.
And have like, you know,
people a lot of like FaceTime before
and expectations.
Yeah.
That, hey, you can't be drunk when you're staying at my place. If that's what you're going to do, find a motel. You know, because it just doesn't make sense for me to do that. But like you're a much more social person. So I think you see it as a opportunity to just know people.
Because when people stayed with me, like when I think the only issues or like this different time of scenarios that I had was when they like came in, like anyone. So it's not just these figures. So that was that time where I would be somewhat worried for different reasons. But I think once they stayed with me, even like that next day, it was all like, you go to the rules apply afterwards. So then it's like, okay, yeah, like now we can be all nice and stuff. So yeah, coming in is like 50-50. Like you may be good, but like, you know, you may be like experiencing the city still.
Yeah, I get that.
So where in the chapter did you find kindness?
I found a lot of the opposite, but I know kindness is our word here, but I felt like there was a lot of lack of kindness. I don't know if that's cheating. Once again, I love to cheat here. Yeah, but I felt like there was a specific lack of kindness where there could have been a lot of kindness, you know, where there were a lot of opportunities for a lot of people to show some kindness and they didn't. And I think it affected. For example,
are we talking about the IOI being?
Oh, one of the first things I'll say, which is, well, I'll stick to my point, but I think one of my point was obviously him being bullied, right, in school, and kids, which I know kids have a hard time showing kindness, especially at a younger age, only because they don't know how it affects other people, and then there's the whole power play. But one of the first things that I had highlighted actually was, you know, being kind to yourself. And I think that is so hard for people. I mean, and that is not limited to kids. Like it's throughout your entire life. Being kind to yourself can be very hard unless you take a conscious effort to do it.
Especially for him kid, I think it's so tough.
It's so tough, especially after you've been bullied or whatever. It can be very tough.
That you don't deserve to be kind to yourself.
Right. And so like for him, like when he talks about his avatar and he's like, my avatar has a slightly smaller nose than me, and he was taller and thinner and more muscular, and he didn't have any teenage acne. But aside from these minor details, we looked more or less identical. So for him to feel like, you know, all of these changes were necessary for him to be liked in this new school. Right. And I remember, like, even for me, like when I got into college, I changed my appearance because I was like, nobody knows me here. This is my opportunity to be a different person so that people like me. Right. That need to be liked and to be accepted is so strong. And it only works if other people are kind to you. Right. Like you can do whatever you want in your entire life. You can change your appearance. You can change your personality. but the other person, there has to be reciprocation of that, of kindness, right? So if you go to this new school and nobody is nice to you, it doesn't matter what you look like, right? It just doesn't matter.
I think
so
one of the first things
kindness
like, one of the things that I highlighted right away, I think it was somewhat also in the start, which I thought of kindness. He said that I strolled in the direction of my world history classroom, smiling and waving to the familiar faces I passed. And I was thinking that's him being really kind, even though, I mean, yeah, he's gained that confidence and he's a little more, you know, he can like talk back sort of, but still he's like smiling and waving. That's, I think, general small acts, that's like an act of kindness, like smiling to random people and like
acknowledgement and like, hey, hi, like that. It's small, but I think I agree with you. I think it matters to people, you know, who hold on, just make myself, you can
no, it's okay, it's fine, you can what
my Vivek's on the phone too for work, so now he has to get up.
Okay, wait, where were we?
Good question.
Small acts of kindness, smiling.
Yeah. I think for him, I don't know if he sees it that way, but I think he maybe feels it. Like I'm sure he doesn't see, I don't know how I'm trying to say this, but essentially, like, I don't think he thinks that this is him doing anything, because from his perspective, I think, like, I don't know how to put it.
Isn't that what being kind is? Like, you can reflect on it like years later, but in the moment you don't really know you're being kind, or like you.
No, I don't think that's true, because I feel like kindness, I feel like that's more like selflessness, even though selflessness, even that is still like you're aware of, you're doing it. But I think kindness is more like, I guess you don't necessarily need to know that you're being kind to be kind, obviously. Because I feel like kindness is obviously more to do with how the recipient feels than the giver, if that's the right term. So for him, I think waving to familiar people gives him a level of confidence and feel goodness that I think, you know, I don't think even his friends are thinking, oh, I'm being so kind, saying hi to these people, right? So I think kindness does have a lot to do with the effect that it has on people, rather than necessarily you feeling like you're being super kind, you know?
I think I just saw this video of, I think it was a project of, I don't know, I think by Nat Geo, maybe someone, but it was simple, like they told the people that, oh, we just want to record a video of you, to ask you a few questions, but the project was whenever they would like point a camera at someone, like they would like call in the person, and the first thing they would say is, oh, you're like, what I'm doing is I'm trying to capture the things that I find beautiful, and that, like, that's all they said. And then the reaction on the person's face was really interesting. It was like, oh, okay, like, thank you. But
yeah, I've seen that. I forget what it was too.
Yeah, it's such a small thing, but it's the reaction of the person or the way they feel about it is what matters, which is, I think, what encompasses kindness in that sense as well. That's why in this case,
I think, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I've seen a lot of other videos like that. There's this like cafe somewhere in Texas or something that like drives around and like shouts nice things to people. It sounds crazy, but like to see the reaction of people, you realize how big of an impact something seemingly small like that has. Like for you to go around and just be like, oh my God, you're beautiful, or you're like, you have a really nice smile. Like random acts of kindness, I feel like sometimes leave a lasting impression on you, because like you could tell that person for the rest of the day, he's gonna be like, oh my God, somebody said, you know, this about me. And like I feel like it has small things can have such a larger impact on people. So like if everyone just walked around and saying nice things to people, like it would be such a different world.
What about, I mean, it's already jumping on a really different angle of kindness, but because I wasn't really thinking about it, but it just came to my mind was, you know how IOI is focused on, like, you know, commercializing the whole thing. And yeah, okay, they're, from Wade's perspective, they are commercializing it for like money and whatnot.
Right.
But what if they're like being kind to people by commercializing it and making sure that they don't waste their lives in oases, but also
I think kindness can be stretched to the point where just occasional results, just because it ended up in a result that may like is positive
it's
for
that
people.
same it's the same idea of like being kind to like euthanize someone, or being.
But I think kindness has to do with intention as well, right? You can't just
That's what I'm
because
saying.
let's say
What if the intention is that we want to save the next generation from oasis?
I don't think so, because I think I don't think it's Wade's perspective. I think it's pretty objective that their plan is to monetize.
Yeah.
So any plan to literally, and he said himself that if they monetize, which by that they mean charge a monthly fee, that the majority of people in the stacks aren't going to be able to afford that. They're not going to be, not only is that going to, because Oasis at this point isn't just like video games, it's education, it's everything.
Yeah.
So for them to not have access,
it's also not, the working class is not industrialist, like the industrial stuff is not happening because people are not working, they're just in their houses. So maybe they want.
I think
we're
not working, or I think Oasis became so popular or so full time for a lot of people, and because everything fell apart. I don't think it was because they were saying, "Hey, I still have a job, but I'd rather spend time in Oasis."
I don't think. Because I think in the previous chapter he did say like people would go to the city from here, like that bus station.
And, commuting. Yeah.
And then his like mom even worked in the Oasis. So.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do want to explore, if it comes to it, that idea of kindness leading to something that's inherently bad, but the intention was good, so you were still being kind. I think I'm thinking of euthanasia, but I think something not as intense, something more like, I think it comes.
I see what you're saying. I guess euthanasia would be a good example for what you're trying to explain, right? Where the actual thing you're doing is not positive, right? You're putting an end to a life, but it's kind because you're ending the suffering that maybe an animal.
Yeah, which is the same with like killing animals, like the ethical debate of, is it okay to kill an animal that's in pain versus yeah.
And I think, I don't know if kindness is the right word. Maybe it is kind, but I think I guess it is kind to put someone or something out of its misery. I mean, obviously someone is a whole different ethical issue, but animals. But yeah, I don't know if there's any other example I can think of that would equate to what you're saying, where the actual thing, well, I guess in a way, right? Like when parents, I don't know if that's kindness, right? But when parents tell you something or say something to you that as a kid or even as an adult, you're not happy with, but when the older you get, the more you realize, okay, they were looking out for you, right?
Yeah.
That they obviously know what your future will hold to a certain extent. So they are providing you with a level of kindness, or they're being kind to you, your future self, and knowing that, you know what, if she does this or he does this right now, it's going to come back to bite them. Yeah. So, right. So like, I guess that's a level of kindness that you don't necessarily think about, or really truly appreciate. But yeah,
which is,
I mean, that's a good way to.
Which is, I mean, kind of the same thing when he does, well, when Wade mutes the other guy. That's somewhat similar. That what?
Todd 13 is his name, the bully.
Oh yeah, that person. Yeah, so he's being kind to himself by not listening to him.
I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think being kind to yourself is not subjecting yourself to hatred.
Yeah, and like removing yourself from toxicity and like all that jazz.
Yeah, I agree. But what is all? I think this chapter is very much about school,
and this introductions. But
you know what? One
you found not kindness. Wait, what?
Yeah, no, there was another quote that I really liked. I don't know if it really speaks to kindness, but it was just an interesting line where they say, at this school, the only real weapons were words. So I'd become skilled at wielding them. And I feel like that shows his unkindness in a way, for him to weaponize words to the extent that he feels like he can truly hurt people with his words. And he uses that to his advantage. I think that speaks a lot of him. Maybe it's not him saying I'm going to be unkind to people who don't deserve it, and maybe it's I'm going to be just as bad as others who bully me, right? So I'm going to stoop down to the level of my bullies, and I think that's really what it says, as opposed to I'm going to go around.
But I think we'll see that translate later on when he has opportunities where he can bully other people, and what decisions he'll make. Which I think we have an idea that he will be kinder, but
because he's been through it, right? He has empathy from where those people are coming from because he's been through it. So I guess he has a certain level of empathy that his current bullies don't, because they've never had to deal with that. Bullies that currently have everything that they need or want, they have all these like magical items and the best clothes, and they don't know what it's like to not have all that. And so when they see somebody who's super poor or doesn't have the coolest skins, it's a joke, and it's something to bully and to make fun of.
Do you think kindness can be bad sometimes? Like, being kind to someone can lead to something.
I think an act of kindness depends on the because I feel like kindness can often be interpreted as like not selfish, but when you do an act of kindness, so let's say like you see an old lady and you're like, you know what, let me help you cross the street,
and she's like, no, I can walk.
Is that kindness, or is that selfishness where you want to feel good about yourself?
And you're assuming that they need help.
Right. I've actually not always, but I've struggled with that myself. And I've been lucky enough that the opposite person has made it clear that they need help or not. And so I don't run into this awkward, like, let me help you. And they're like, fuck.
That's a big thing in like South Asian families, or at least within my family. Like my mom and my mom's dad were the same. Like they were like, no, don't help me, even if they're like falling down, and it's like, no. So
let me fall.
Yeah. But
no, I told you that. Like I've been through that where like I've seen like a person, like I specifically remember one occasion I was in Boston in like the train station. And there was this older lady, and she was blind and she had like the cane and stuff, but she was like, I want to say she was kind of clearly lost, but I didn't know how to approach her. So she was like walking around, and like she took a same turn like a couple of times. So I just like slowly approached and I was like, hey, are you looking for something I can help with? And she was so nice. Like, cause I have encountered, especially blind people, who have a lot of pride and a lot of, they confidence, and they don't want to be looked at as something, that they can't do anything. But she was like super kind. She was like, oh, thank you so much. I'm just looking for this or that. And like, if you can just, and like, what I really like appreciated was she didn't say like, okay, yeah, like, and put her hand on like, okay. So she like made it clear of what she was looking for. She's like, I'm just looking for the elevator. So if you could just point me in the right direction and tell me where, I'll do it. And actually, I remember specifically, I'd watch some videos about, how it works for blind people, and how sometimes it's hard for them to really understand directions from sighted people, because sighted people have this lack of empathy, and they don't understand that blind people don't just know, oh yeah, take a left from here, because they don't fucking see it. So like to be able to explain that, hey, take like 5-10 steps and then take a left, and then to be able to explain to them. And so like she was so excited when I said instructions like that. And it's not selfless in any way, because I felt amazing after helping her, and she felt good that I approached it hopefully in a kinder manner than to be like, hey, you need help, or like something that was maybe not as empathetic, and being able to help. But like I think you have to be careful how you approach kindness, maybe sometimes, because you may think you're helping, but and you may think you're being kind, but you're in fact just being selfish, and you're being like self-serving in a lot of ways. And I think that's one way I could see kindness kind of morphing into selfishness.
I think when people can purposefully sort of use kindness as an excuse to point things out to people, or that, I was just being kind by telling you looked horrible today. So like that.
No.
Which is
else would
which
tell me?
might be kindness for some people, but for some it might not.
Oh, that's a good, especially for South Indian people who
Yeah.
feel the need to tell you that you look fat.
Yeah, like all
As if
casual.
that they're doing you a favor or that you'd never
They
looked
actually
at yourself in
believe
their
that they're
entire.
being really like kind to
They're
you
like
by
telling you
actually
something
telling
that you
you
don't
the
know
honest
also. They're
truth.
like,
Yeah.
oh my God, you got really fat. Oh no shit. I look in a mirror every fucking day. You don't have to tell me, bro. Like, what do you think you're doing? As if like they're looking out for me, right? To be like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Like,
They're
and
like,
another
you
thing
did
that
not
I
know.
never
Did you
understood.
know?
Yeah. They'll be like, oh, what's that on your face? What is that? Like, what do you think it is? A. B, do not think I looked at myself and said, oh shit, a pimple's coming. I don't need you to point it out and pretend you don't know what it is. Like for them to be like, what is that? Like I've had that happen to me multiple times. To be like, oh, something's on your face. Like,
I
is that everything?
hate
I'm
I
like,
hate when they do like a lot of like South Asian like older people do this like really casually. They like feel bad for you for being a certain way, especially like being dark skinned. They're like, oh my
oh,
God, like I feel so bad for like you and your parents that like, you know what, things will be okay. Like people, I mean, with like dark skin, if someone's like unmarried, they treat you as something like you're just
the
a
pity.
broken yeah, shield or something. That they're like, oh my God, don't worry, like, yeah, I'm not worrying. Like you just
Yeah. You
stop me.
worry about yourself. That's not kindness, bro. That's just, and you know what? The crazy thing is not only is that pity, not kindness, but they 100% get a level of like satisfaction
Yeah, that
or
we did
like
that.
a level of, yeah, like, ooh, I'm better than you.
Yeah.
And in no way is that them looking out for you. And I'm not only talking about like aunties, I'm talking about like people in your own family who
Yeah.
are like think that they're looking out for you, but they're not. Like I had the hardest time explaining to my mom. Like I had to be super blunt one day where I was just like, Mom, if you mention like my weight ever from this point forward, I will not talk to you for a long time because it's just like you're not helping anybody. I see what I'm doing. She still like will send me like casual exercises, ooh,
All
and
casual.
she'll yeah, like, oh look, just found this. It just sent to me somehow. Shit like that, which I can just ignore. But like, and for her it's fine. Like I've told her explicitly. But then there are other people like Vivek's family or something like that who would be like straight up, and you're like, and so and the worst part is, and I feel like we're getting derailed, but like the worst part is when you try to defend yourself or when you try to say, oh, it's nothing, they push or
Yeah.
they say, why are you being negative about it? Or why do you have an attitude about it? So like, what do you want me to do when you say that? When you're like, oh, like you look fat, you should be like, oh, yes. Like,
Literally, I think this was 4 days ago. Like, I mean, I know my schedule these days. I know I'm eating like real time. So I know how I look generally. I have always known how I look.
Yeah.
But so I went
We're aware.
and upstairs, one of my aunts was visiting and she was just sitting and she was like, oh, I think you're fat, like a little bit fat from like before, right? And I was like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. And then she's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, like, are you? I was like, yeah, I don't know, maybe, I don't know why I was thinking, should I defend myself? Should I like? So I literally just said like,
what
yeah,
are
I
they
think
looking
I'm just
for?
eating more. Like it's logical that I'll be this way. And then she was like, oh, okay. And like it was like for her it was like, oh, I observed something and I just told you. Like, okay.
Yeah, I just don't understand like what kind of response they're looking for.
Yeah,
or
I was
are
really
they like
confused. I was like, what
proud
do
of
you want?
themselves? Like I don't get it. I honestly don't get what they're gaining from it.
Yeah, I
From
was
making
actually thinking like, I mean, I will agree, but like, does she want me to feel bad or does she want me to be like, oh, like, no, but you look really nice. Like, what's that?
I want to turn around and be like, and that's the thing is like you can't ask them the reason for
Yeah, you
them
cannot.
asking. That makes sense. You can't be like, wait, why? Like, why do you care? Or why does it like? Do you really not think that I know this? Like, what's happening? Like, let's talk. Like, what's going on? Because they have no idea. They'll be like, what? Why do you want to talk about it? Like, that's just what I think. Like, wow. And then
I just
go
made an
behind your back and tell your mom. Yeah, tell your mom like, oh, Saad has a lot of attitude, and then it's like you're fucked.
And then it's a whole another story
The whole
of
thing.
being rude.
So you just like nod and smile, and you just get over it. Like literally, like at this point, that's what I've done. Like anytime somebody or I just don't talk to them. Like I
think I'm
try to
becoming
avoid
used to
them.
attending weddings and just ignoring a lot of comments. And it's not even just like aunties, uncles are pretty in on it as well. It's like same, or sometimes even worse.
Yeah.
They're like really strategic about it that, oh, we're not gossiping and poof. But
Poof.
but
Yeah.
they're really like they like make it more sarcastic, which is somehow worse. They're like, oh, you're
Yeah.
like fat now, like what? Like it's
Oh,
like,
you need like this now. Oh, like they think they're being buddy with you.
yeah, it's annoying.
Stupid.
I
Stupid
think
people.
we derailed it from kindness, but it's okay.
So unkind of them.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But yeah,
Another.
it's that like the whole. Well, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Mine's like a different topic.
Oh, okay. No, I was just gonna point out another quote that I felt like made me think of kindness was the line that says, well, I'll read the whole sentence. I only highlighted a little part, but even so, I tried my best to fit in. Year after year, my eyes would scan the lunchroom like a T-1000, searching for a clique that might accept me.
Oh, that's so sad.
That's so sad. And for him to like feel the need to be, accepted is like just someone to just have a little bit of shred of kindness to just maybe look at him or, just to say, it's
Just be
okay,
like, hey.
you can sit with us.
Yeah.
And or just to kind of acknowledge that I exist, because I feel like he continues on to talk about that even other outcasts wanted nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And so for him to feel like not only do normal people not want to be with me, but other people like me don't want to be with me. Yeah. So like, where am I? Like, where do I stand? Like, not even the lowest of the lows want to like extend a hand. So it's like,
I think a lot of this is a lot of this is his perception, but yeah. I think it's that atmosphere that has been created of like that lack of kindness from generally people, I think, which is the same in like cafeterias. And like I remember like going into Deka, like if I went in there alone, I would have that moment of like, oh, like, do I know anyone? Like, because sometimes I think when I started, because this was freshman year, so like I was in that phase of like, oh, I want to make friends with people from other countries and like America, and then I would be like, oh, maybe they'll invite me to the table, but of course no one does that. That's stupid.
Yeah.
but still, there was that like, why is no one being like just kind and like being like, hey, why don't you random person join us? Which I would never do.
Awkwardness. Yeah. I think it's an excuse. The socialness is like an excuse. But like I was thinking of the what was I thinking of? I was gonna say something in relation to that. Anything about
he's crying.
Yeah, because he wants to go out. What was I gonna say? He's not gonna let me. You want to pause?
Oh.
Hold on.
Wait, you said let's do it, right? Oh.
And we're back.
No.
Well, no, that's cut. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, that's why I did the opposite. But yeah, one other place that like I think it's towards the end, which is just a normal act of kindness, which I think I try to do it a lot, but I think it ends up being more annoying than kind, is or well, I don't do that, but generally what he said was, so when he was like in his like own surfing through things, wait, how do you pronounce his friend's name? H. Okay,
that's right.
So H starts with top of the morning, amigo, and I think just that, like the interest of like, hey,
even I have it like highlighted.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see it. I think even just that normal greeting is sometimes so nice. See, I always find it nice. So I think I wanna think that other people find it nice as well. So I sometimes like take time out to be like, oh, let me message these not random people, but like acquaintances and friends and be like, hey, how's life? Hey, what's up? People who I might not have talked in like 2 years. But so I do that. Sometimes I don't get a reply and I'm like, okay, whatever. But sometimes I do get a nice reply like, hey, what's up? Like this one guy, like one friend from Beta who I never like haven't talked to in like 6 years. Randomly, I saw his Facebook online thing and I was like, hey, what's up? How's life? And he was like, oh yeah, why don't we FaceTime? I was like, oh, okay, let's FaceTime. And then we talked.
Oh, I think you told me about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it is nice, and sometimes I think it does help you bond a lot with people. But then yeah, sometimes I mean people are also busy, and like half the people don't
But
even.
no, I think that's like a really, I think it is like an act of kindness, because you never know like what a person's going through. And I feel like
Yeah,
when you check
100%.
in with people,
Yeah.
I think it can be so important, because you may not think it's a huge deal, and
Yeah.
even they may not think it's a huge deal, but it may help them, right? Whatever they may be going through, it, even if it's good things, bad things, having someone to talk to, I think can be so important. Just, you know, for just to even just say, like, have a normal conversation, small talk, even
Yeah, even
sometimes.
small talk. Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like, you know, reaching out, like that's what we're talking about here, is I feel like an act of kindness for anybody, any of his classmates, would be to reach out, to
Yeah, to
just
literally just be like,
extend
hey,
that. And
what's
then
up?
if he wants to take it or not,
Yeah.
that's fine. But just to say, hey, you know, you're welcome to sit here,
Yeah.
is so such a small thing for people to do.
Yeah.
And it would mean so much to him.
Yeah.
So like,
And I think that's why, like, the act of kindness has to come from a place where you do not hold an expectation. Because I think if you do it, and like, because a lot of people do, like, if you message and they're like that they saw it but they never reply, like blah blah blah. But I think that defeats the point, because then you want something from them versus you being kind. And yeah, it
yeah,
may not be reciprocated, but that's okay, sort of.
yeah, yeah, kindness, you're not looking to get something back, right?
Yeah.
You're just, so I think that that's a good way to kind of put it.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's overall pretty much all that I could
I
conjure.
honestly wasn't expecting that to be the end. Like when I read that, I like went to the next
Yeah,
page.
that's
I
why I
was
was
like,
like,
okay,
oh,
oh, wait,
it's like
what?
half done probably.
Yeah.
And it was a small chapter compared to at least the chapter one.
Oh, you know what? Another thing, I guess it's not really kindness. It's just kind of, I guess it is kindness. I don't know. And why he feels like this person is his best friend is because how, you know, when you're friends with someone, you get into a level of comfort, but even then, because they're your friend and they choose to include you, you feel accepted. So for H to just be like, oh, got the basement online, just come in, like hang out before you go to
That
school, right? Like
feels
that,
so good. Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm a part of something.
Yeah.
Someone wants me to be there. And I think that is so kind to include someone. Like, you know, those moments, and I feel like I'm sure you've been in those moments. And I always feel so proud of myself. And I don't know if that still counts as kindness, but you know, when you clearly see someone that doesn't feel included, and you reach out and make them feel included,
Yeah.
I feel like it can be so powerful, because you feel good, and I feel like just because you're doing something that makes you feel good doesn't mean it's not kind.
Exactly.
But like there are like multiple specific things that I remember like doing for like in Garba, so you know, like the dances, the cultural dances that we
Yeah.
I remember distinctly a lot of people, especially and including like I mean Americans, but also like Indian people who didn't necessarily know the steps or how to do it. And I remember specifically like multiple times going out and be like, hey, here's how to do it, or teaching them.
Yeah.
And like for them to feel like, oh my God, this person is making like it okay for me to be here, and like actually wants me to be a part of their culture is so important, because I feel like a lot of people who are trying to learn something about a culture feel shut out because others make them feel like don't intrude on our culture.
Yeah, it's like,
right?
oh, don't do this because this is offensive. Like, I get it, but it's like you have
Don't you
to
want
merge
people
in.
to
Like,
be don't you want people to like love your culture? Like I think that's, but anyway, that's besides the point. But like, you know, and even distinctly about like language differences, because I know how it feels, even for me, how it used to feel like when I used to hang out with people who exclusively spoke Hindi. I used to feel like, okay, awkward, because my Hindi is not that strong. So for me to kind of speak up. So I remember distinctly, I don't know, I don't think you knew this guy, but he didn't speak Hindi or Gujarati. He spoke like a South Indian language and English. And whenever we used to hang out, everybody used to speak in Hindi. And I was like, guys, he clearly doesn't understand. Like, why would you speak in Hindi? Like, it's rude. It's not even like it's like rude. And so I remember like whenever I would respond to anybody, I would respond in English
which is what has been happening here. Like whenever, because Ben's he's staying with us for a while. The couchsurfer.
Right.
So like when he's sitting, it's me, my mom, my dad, and Shanza. So me and Shanza usually try to keep we speak in English,
But sometimes I
Yeah.
mean, I get it because for my dad and my mom, it's a completely different way to talk in English because they're not used to it. So they always like
Yeah.
say a sentence in English and then they
Flip
would
into
say 5 sentences in Urdu and sort of direct it to my mom or to me. And then I would either just quickly translate it or I would respond in English. So at least he gets the picture of what we're talking about. But yeah.
Yeah. But like I feel like for your parents, it's obviously it's tougher because
It's a different world that like yeah.
right. And I feel like they don't, it's not like they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying like my group was saying doing it on purpose, but I think they were being like neglectful. Like they
They're
could
just they
easily
don't didn't know,
fluently
yeah.
speak English. They
Yeah.
had no issue with that. So like it's like the same thing like even within my own family, like my parents and Mandy, like especially with my mom, like she could easily speak English. I mean, her English isn't strong,
Yeah.
but
But she
to
could,
keep in
yeah, she's
mind
good.
that Mandy is there, she should try her best
Yeah.
to do that. And to as an opposite example, my brother, he is showing kindness to his wife, a fiance, by kind of letting us know that it's rude to not speak in English, but he's also super rude about it
Yeah.
to like us, including my mom. He'll be like, why are you talking in Gujarati? Like
Yeah.
she doesn't understand clearly. And we're like, okay,
Like take one
whoa.
chance.
Yeah, like so like it's it's kindness, I guess, in that way. Like
Yeah.
even if you're being kind to someone, you're being immediately rude to someone. It's like
Yeah.
it can come off strange. But yeah,
That is
for a
all
short
that
chapter, I
had
think
for
that was a pretty
Yeah.
good discussion.
Wait, pick your
Especially where
favorite
kindness
sentence.
is hard to find.
Same. Or pick your favorite sentence.
Ooh,
I have mine, which I'll
rude.
read because this time
There you
I
go.
picked it while I was reading. It's technically 2 sentences, but that's okay. It's I think one of the last sentences in the paras or something. It says, "No one could even touch me. In here, I was safe."
Mm.
I think he's
I
talking
guess
about.
mine would be. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure. Yeah, I guess I'll go with this one. It's kind of on the same line. We'd been born into an ugly world, and the oasis was our one happy refuge.
It'll be so cool to have. I mean, we low key have it already, like in our phones, but still.
Okay, next chapter.
Oh yeah, theme. Oh, am I picking? Oh, I am picking the theme this time around. No, I think we pick the theme and then we cut. So like the people who, all these people, they know what to expect next session.
All these 2 people.
All these 2 people, like you, both of me's, all of everyone.
Most of you. Rude. Not even all
Yeah, I
of
think
you
I
can.
sent you a PDF. Did we talk in between? Why do we
Yeah,
chat?
but you sent it like 5 years
Sometimes
ago.
I
I should
send
have
something
saved
to
it.
someone and then I chat a little bit and then I'm like scrolling back and I'm like, oh, I chatted for like 30,000 messages in between.
Yeah, but seriously, that's. Oh, I found. No. I
found it.
And then
Okay, so this time around, chapter 3, we will read through.
You're gonna like look and pick.
Yeah, I mean it's just generally easy. I think I can.
You're not gonna do blind.
No. What did I pick last time? I was picking exposure. Do you want to do it exposure? Or no? Let's do like friendship or something. Or we did kindness. That's pretty much the same, isn't it? No, we can do friendship because I mean, plus I think it'll work better because he's about to meet his friend. Or
wait, what one?
What's opposite of friendship? Wait.
What's opposite?
How about openness? Because we already did relationships. That's somewhat friendshipy. Openness might be cool. Or peer pressure.
Peer pressure is fine.
Right?
I think there would be peer pressure.
Okay, we can do peer pressure. Peer
Okay.
pressure it is. Chapter 3 through the eyes of through the theme of
level 3.
Level 3 through the theme of peer pressure.
Got it.
Oh. Oh, I was about to stop video. Where do I stop?